welcome to another episode of Run Right Don't Die, official podcast of the GameCast network. Each week we pick an interesting topic to discuss, chat about the latest video game and industry news, and have a bunch of fun in the process. I'm your host, ShakkaPanda. With me, as always, is my co-host, Vox. What's up, man?
Hey, Shaka. Always happy to be here. But of course, most importantly, we've got our special guest, Mark from Arison Culture. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good, thanks.
Now, Mark is from the review team over at the GameCast network. Is joining there under Captain Max.
Good old Captain Max.
Well, it's super cool to have you on here, and I think that the GameCast has already proven to be an incredible resource to have interesting people to come and visit with us on the podcast. I think that this format is working. So my friends that have been on here already, thank you, and we will definitely want to have you back. Those of you that are listening to this that haven't had a chance to be on here yet, just speak up. We're happy to have you as well. It is super fun to be able to have that rotating third chair and get some fresh blood every week, because we're just a bunch of vampires over here on Run Right Don't Die. All right. So today, as always, we'll be talking about what we've been playing lately, a little bit of news, and the topic of the show is E3 2017, which is, oh my god, happening this weekend and next week. Your hopes, dreams, and unicorn beams. But first, of course, a little housekeeping.
Sad to say, we never got to Akira last weekend, but we had so much fun playing Unturned. The Unturned community event extravaganza went great, and we'll be blowing up ShakkaPanda's Unturned server each Saturday with more gaming goodness. Hope you're ready, Shaka.
Oh, I'm ready. In fact, after last week, when we met up last week, my server was only a 10-person server, and we were having a little bit of trouble. And so we're going to jump it up to a 20-player server. In fact, I've already done that. And so if you go over there, you'll be able to play it again and enjoy the silky smooth goodness of more resources on the dedicated server. So that'll be fun. And so I've jumped it up to a 20-player server from a 10-player server. And as servers work, of course, that doesn't mean that it'll run well with 20 players. It'll probably run well with 8 to 10 players. So.
Well, and of course, E3 coverage internally for the GameCast gang is coming this next week. While several of the team will be making videos on their own channels, we're also going to be using RRDD to watch streams together, as well as some team members planning on live streaming their commentary over conferences they're particularly excited about. Keep tuned to the GameCast Discord to keep updated on the plans for E3 coverage and community events as they unfold.
Right on. Now, that's enough for housekeeping this week. Let's get into Controller Confessions. This is the section of the podcast where we go around and chat about what we've been playing lately, no matter how embarrassing. You're up first, Mark, since you're the guest today. What have you been playing, man?
Well, lately I've been on this weird Batman fix ever since I played Injustice 2. So I've been slowly tracking down every modern Batman game I can. And I'd never played Arkham Knight until now. So I just marathoned that all last week.
Oh, nice. Man, those games are so good. You can fall right into them and just get lost.
Kevin Conroy's voice is so silky smooth.
Oh, dude. It's truly a just magical, geeky experience to play those games and get the very voices that we all grew up listening to on Batman the Animated Series, which is, I think, for everybody, the most iconic sounding characters ever.
Yeah, contrary to Christian Bale's "Swear to me." Yeah, no.
Right.
Not at all.
Well, Vox, what have you been playing, man?
Well, as some may or may not know, I've recently fallen from my pedestal. I have bought Overwatch. And so I've been playing. Yeah.
One of us,
yeah. I've started.
That's awesome.
I've started to play Overwatch, and it is amazing. It is amazing, as everybody has told me, and I refuse to believe. So I'm probably going to be addicted to that for the next 6 months, year and a half, 2 years. Who knows how long this binge is going to take me. And I also so happened to have received free keys to Elder Scrolls Online Golden Edition. And if you may or may not know this about me, I have an unhealthy obsession with anything Elder Scrolls. I absolutely love anything Elder Scrolls. So getting it free keys, yes, that's one of my guilty pleasures. So getting 2 keys for a free account online. Oh boy, if I'm not going to be addicted to Overwatch, I'm definitely going to be addicted to Elder Scrolls. But in any case, you might find on the news that old Vox has expired from lack of nutrition due to these games. But enough about me, Shaka. What controller confessions are you hiding behind that sexy, sexy beard of yours?
Well, recently I have been playing. God damn it, the sexy beard comment gets me every time. Shit. Recently I've been playing some Owlboy, which is a fantastic game. In fact, I finished it on my stream this last week. If you aren't familiar with Owlboy, it's this incredible side-scrolling, old-school pixel art game that's really just a fantastic kind of Metroidvania RPG sort of thing. There's not a ton of backtracking, so it's just a little bit, but it definitely has the vibe of a Metroidvania game, but maybe like Vania Light or something. And but it's amazing. It's a really amazing game. The art is beautiful, the music is beautiful, the dialogue, the story, the feels in that game. I straight up got really close to tearing up in that game. It is so damn good. The best way I could possibly describe it is it reminds me a lot of a very Zelda sort of vibe. Story-wise, the actual gameplay is very much different, and it also has a little bit of a Studio Ghibli kind of thing going on. If you're familiar with some of those fantastic films from Japan, some of the best animated movies of all time, it definitely reminds me of that as well in tone. It is quite an incredible game, and I have to admit, I kind of want to go back and play it again just to experience the story one more time, unmolested by needs to record or stream, but just to be able to, just for me to go back and play it and experience that story one more time, like rereading a good book. That was really special. And then out of left field on my 2-Player Tuesday, I played a live stream for 3 hours with my friend Brian, Phantom Breaker Battlegrounds, which is this like a couple of year old, super kooky, crazy, over the top, adorable anime girl inspired side scrolling beat 'em up. And it is freaking fantastic. We had so much fun playing that game. Supermation was there on the stream hanging out with us for pretty much the whole time. And it's pretty damn great. It's pretty damn great. So that's one I would also recommend. And it, like, I think right now, as of this recording on Steam, it's like all of $3 because it's like 75% off.
Ooh.
So if I get this recording out fast enough, maybe you can go check that out.
Sweet.
Well, let's go ahead and get into the news. First up on the news, Steam Greenlight is to be replaced with something called Steam Direct. Interesting. So what that means is that Steam Greenlight is getting shuttered. Now, there are still about 3,400 games currently on Steam Greenlight, and Valve has some of their trolls over there wading through them and working on it, trying to figure out what's going to happen with those games. But the big change here is that previously, to get into Steam Greenlight as a developer, you need to submit a form, and along with that form, you need to submit a $100 fee. And that allows you to, I think, for a year, submit as many games as you please. And the new setup is that it is $100 per game. So in a way, this will limit the amount of crazy shovelware sort of stuff that comes on there, because if one person pays the $100, they can just send in like a gajillion awful games all year long, whereas now each game costs $100. But again, in the grand scheme of things, $100 isn't a whole lot of money to be able to submit a game to Steam. And it looks like there's a small sort of review process that you go through for a little while, where they, take a look at the game, make sure that the information that you put up in the coming soon page lines up with what the game actually is. And they actually put up a coming soon page to try and build a little bit of buzz for you and give the community an opportunity to point out things that look like inconsistencies and all that. So they say there's a 30 days. You have to wait 30 days between submitting a title and when the game can launch. And Valve says, this gives us time to review the developer's information and confirm that we know who we're doing business with. Developers will also need to put up a coming soon page for a couple of weeks prior to release, which helps get more eyes on upcoming releases and gives players a chance to point out discrepancies that our team may not have been able to catch. So I think this is an interesting thing. What do you guys think about this? Because I know that Steam has become a haven for interesting indie games that might not have gotten seen before, but at the same time, it's also all of the good games lay on a giant pile of shovelware at the same time. So how do you feel like this is going to affect the state of things over on internet's easily #1 game distribution platform?
Yeah, well, I think it's probably going to cull a lot of that sort of garbage, and it might deter a few of like the golden gems in there, but it's only $100. It's not really like that big of a sort of step to take. So it might not really change a lot, but I'm sure that we'll see like a dramatic decrease in some of the like just straight up copy and pasted trash.
Honestly, though, when you really think about it, $100 for unlimited games to submit a year, yeah, it makes sense that people are going to submit a lot of crap. But $100 per game, at least it makes you think before you submit. Right. So hopefully, with this new limitation and this new system, we will see a limit as to how much crap gets put on Steam. Because to be honest, if you look at Steam within the past 2 or 3 years, and a lot of the greenlit games, especially from unknown developers, there is just mountains upon mountains of shovelware. So I actually look forward to seeing less crap in my future.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man, if I see just one single more freaking RPG Maker game make it through onto Steam, enough, you guys, seriously, no more, please stop. Yeah, stuff like that being on a professional games distribution website that is the number one internet game distributions website, it is a little bit like, oh, come on, guys. So I think that I agree with you guys. I think that this is definitely going to call a little bit of the garbage, and anybody that's serious and a real game designer is not going to have any problems paying $100 to get their game published somewhere. That's nothing. That's nothing, especially in the grand scheme of things as a professional or even as a indie game designer. I can't imagine them being like, oh, I just can't afford that $100. It's like, well, then how did you make the game at all? Because it takes programs that are going to cost way more than that to be able to even do that. I mean, just the Adobe Creative Suite is like $50 a month, and you got to pay for it for a year, or you're going to pay like $70 a month. So, anybody that's a real dev is not going to have a problem paying $100 to get in. And I think it will put this nice barrier that the sort of fly-by-night stuff might not be able to squeak through. So that's nice. Well, what's next, Vox?
Well, Nintendo Switch's premium online service will remain free until 2018. So you might have heard that the Switch was going to have an online paid service, a subscription, if you will. However, it looks like they are going to push this back for another year till 2018. So all of you Switch users are going to be able to enjoy the benefits of this subscription service for another year for free. Now, what are the advantages to this subscription service? Well, it looks like they are going to give you an voice over IP app that will allow you to communicate with your friends whenever and forever, as long as they're a Switch user. However, this system's a little awkward since you have to use not only your Switch, but a mobile device as well. So it begs the question, what's it even for if we have apps like TeamSpeak or Discord? But that's just me and I digress. One of the other benefits of this subscription is that you could play an online library of classic games that now have online play. Classic NES games that you all know and love, and SNES titles are free. You can just access them as long as you have an active subscription. But by the looks of it, again, push back for another year, free until then, and it's actually pretty cheap. $3.99 a month, $7.99 for 3 months, or $20 a year. Honestly, for an online service, not too bad. Not too bad at all.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. It's not very much money. In fact, it's considerably less money than the other game companies like the PlayStation Network or Xbox, I guess Xbox Gold and PlayStation Plus. Those are much more in the neighborhood of $50 for the year. I'm not quite really sure what their monthly is, but it is a lot less, which is good and interesting. I think that it makes sense for things to be a little bit less expensive for a system that is typically aimed at younger folks. Nintendo is known for being kind of the ambassador for console gaming and provides an experience that is, really just right for younger kids. And then a lot of the time they transition into using other systems as well. And some people stay, some people don't, but that's kind of the place Nintendo often occupies. And so I think it's wise to have it be not so expensive and appreciate and respect their demographic. The only thing that stands out to me as a little bit like, I wonder what they really mean by that, is when they talk about, now these old-fashioned games, these NES games have online play. It's super, super nebulous. And my question is, does that mean multiplayer like we're all hoping? Or does that mean leaderboards like it's probably going to be?
Well, if it's Nintendo, it's probably just going to be leaderboards, unfortunately. Most of these NES games, I don't really see a multiplayer mode for them, even by design. It just seems odd.
Hey, dude, I'd play Excitebike multiplayer with you all day. That game is awesome.
Oh, don't get me started on Excitebike. That's a part of my childhood right there.
Agreed. If they manage to do something really interesting with that added online play, that could be incredible, because there's some really, truly fantastic NES games from back in the day, as we've seen with some of the amazing indie titles coming out. It doesn't really take a great deal of power to tell a good story and have interesting gameplay that's fun and exciting and all of that. So I think that it could be neat to resurrect some of these old titles. I do like the idea of an ongoing library of titles. I think that it might be, in a way, Nintendo's way of saying, hey, sorry for making you guys buy virtual console stuff on each of the most recent systems that you can buy virtual console stuff. None of it rolls over, which is just evil. So I think it's nice that they're going to start just being like, hey, man, here's our back catalog. And if you're subscribed to our monthly online pass, you just have it. Just have it. I think that's really cool.
Surprisingly tame of you, Shaka. I know that you have such a love for Nintendo. So hearing you say, somewhat positive things about this online service, definitely out of character. Who are you and what have you done with the Shaka I've known to love?
Well, I know that I sometimes play up how much I don't like Nintendo, but the truth of it is that the reason I get passionate about Nintendo one way or the other is because that's an integral part of my gaming experience and youth. And to see them head in a direction that I find to be distasteful and unfortunate and frustrating, it's challenging to watch that happen and not have opinions and not feel in some way abandoned or misled or just, I don't know. It's hard to see something that you loved so much, that did such a good job for so long and provided a lot of incredible experiences, to really turn to, in the Wii's life cycle, just tons and tons of shovelware and BS and cash-in titles and mini games. And then, in the Wii U, just put major foot in mouth with all of that. And it's just been a mess for a while. And if I really just didn't care, I wouldn't care. The reason that it upsets me is because I think Nintendo's capable of great things. So
here.
A little real talk. And I think for me, what's exciting is that it looks like with Switch, Nintendo might be getting their game back. And, pun intended, I think that they're really starting to turn around, hopefully. So we'll see. I haven't picked one up yet, but I have to be honest, more and more I'm thinking, gee whiz, that might be cool. The only real reason that I'm not doing anything with Nintendo these days is just because they have such a draconian way of dealing with content creators that I don't know if I'll ever actually do any of their content, streaming or otherwise. And that kind of puts a big hamper on my interest level with playing their stuff, because that's often how I play my games. So.
Oh, you can stream it and record it, but you're not going to get any money off of it. I'll tell you that much. Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Next up, Devolver Digital cancels its E3 Indie Picnic event. Now, that's a super disappointing thing. It sounded like it was going to be really cool. They were calling it the Picnic because they were going to have, quote, artisanal indie games and music. They were going to have like a very cool little setup, cold beverages and even some carnival games. It looked like it was going to be something really super duper neat. And hilariously, in the Devolver Digital, as always, is basically just, my heart and soul. I love those guys and gals. And they put on Twitter, regrettably, the man isn't going to allow us to host the fan badge portion of this year's Devolver Indie Picnic. So it looks like some form of the Indie Picnic is still happening, but as you know, E3, there are different badges. So you've got the developer badges, you've got industry badges, all that kind of stuff. And it looks like the actual fan badge, which would just be for us normal mooks that aren't going in there for some kind of an actual purpose other than just, woo, E3, this is exciting, which is exactly the people that would have had a good time at that Indie Picnic. Not people that are at work, technically. They're not going to be able to go in there because of some concerns, and they weren't able to get the permits all set up. So that's really unfortunate. But I think that, if anything, it simply shows that Devolver is super duper fan forward, super duper gamer first, even to the point where they might get over ambitious and try and put together things that can't actually happen.
So, bless their souls. They tried. They try so hard.
Yeah, exactly. It's disappointing, but at the end of the day, it's just a deeper window into how freaking awesome those guys are. What's up next, Vox?
The Fable card game that survived the death of Lionhead is coming out in July. Now, personally, I can't tell you much about the Fable series as I have not played it before. However, I do know that the studio that used to own the Fable name, Lionhead, went down, and their multiplayer entry, Fable Legends, which is going to be a fantasy RPG series, also went down with the studios. However, it does not mean that Fable itself is dead in the gutter. By the looks of it, Fable Fortune, a card spin-off developed by some ex-Lionhead employees, is coming out next month. Now, from what I can tell, it looks like the game is coming out to an Xbox game preview, and it's also going to come out on Steam Early Access on July 11th. It'll allow you to do PvP and co-op, and it'll let you incorporate some of the long-time Fable mechanics that you've known to good love, including a good and evil alignment system in card game form. So, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh! With Fable. I'm down for that. Originally, with the blessing of Microsoft, you know, they tried to go on Kickstarter and get the funds they needed, but they fell short. However, it looks like the Lionhead people managed to secure some outside funding, and so development continues on. But tell me, Mark, honestly, how do you feel about this? I mean, I'm not a big Fable player, so maybe from fresh outside perspective would help me understand it.
Yeah, well, I think I played Fable 1 and 2, so I have a bit of background on it. I was a bit sad to see the franchise sort of have a not so ceremonious death. And so it's good to see that in some form or another, it is continuing and is sort of expanding on the lore, because the world was always interesting. And I feel like this is probably a way to get a lot more people excited for what could be the continuation of something great.
You know, I understand that one of the things about the Fable games that was most well-loved over the years were the mini-games. I think it's really cool to see them extract one of those games and then make it available individually like that, and maybe even go a little deeper with it. Apparently, it's going to have some kind of a, you know, good and evil system, yet in card game form. So that's going to be really interesting. I think that it's exciting. It's definitely exciting. And a lot of the time when a game comes out that is, you know, maybe a remaster or a classic edition or something like this that is related to a game series that is no longer happening, if that game really kicks a bunch of ass, it's almost like them testing the waters to see if Fable has legs still and has enough interest for them to actually invest in a new game. So that is always very far away, no doubt, but I think that if anybody is interested in the Fable games returning, that they should most certainly patronize this, because that will be probably your best really speak with your dollars sort of opportunity to be able to say, hey, I would definitely buy more Fable if you made more Fable.
Yeah, I think it'll do well, especially for fans, if they've got a card where you can punt a chicken, because that's just a major part.
There's definitely going to be chicken abuse in the card game, no question.
It won't be Fable without it.
That's right. Well, this last one I know Vox is excited about. Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon, only announced for the 3DS. Well, it was gonna be on the Switch for a quick minute there, and then not. So it turns out that on the official Pokemon press page, they put the release date for November 17th, 2017, and then for the 3DS version, and then below that they said Nintendo Switch, and it said to be announced. And everybody lost their shit, because we have never actually had a proper console, real, full Pokemon game. There's been sort of kind of Pokemon games, and there's been things that have come close, but there's never been an actual main series Pokemon game for a console, and everybody thought, holy shit, this is the time. The Switch is technically a portable console, and everybody always says that works on those games, and the reason why is no, those are really portable games. That's really where they belong. That's what they should be. And then sure enough, in a quick minute, they removed it. And then the Pokemon Company came out and said that it was a, quote, clerical error. Quote, they said, "We would like to address rumors based on a clerical error on the Pokemon press site. Pokemon Ultra Sun and Pokemon Ultra Moon are coming exclusively to the 3DS family of systems and are not due for release on Nintendo Switch. This listing on the Pokemon press site was made in error and is not indicative of our future plans. Please refer to the Pokemon Direct for more games details." So basically Nintendo raised everybody to orgasmic heights of gaming awesome and then just smashed them in the nuts. It's pretty much what happened this week. So how do you feel about that, Vox and Mark? You guys have feelings?
Mark, please go ahead. I'm currently still trying to find my happy place.
Yeah, well, I'm a little more neutral on Pokemon because my sort of experience with it was I played Blue back on the Game Boy and then played X and Y on the 3DS. So I went from black and white to 3D and lost my crap. So any new game is always sort of exciting in a way. But the original Sun and Moon didn't excite me too much. It was interesting, I guess, like with the Hawaii sort of look and feel. But I'm friends with a lot of like massive Pokemon fans, and they were furious. Like someone that buys both games every single time was just completely dumbfounded. It's like it said, "Oh, we wanted it for Switch. We wanted it for this." Someone said they didn't even have a Switch and still wanted it for Switch. So, like, I feel like it's a bait and switch sort of thing. But it's I don't know, it's disappointing because we sort of expected more, or we wanted more, or hoped for more, and just didn't get it.
It just feels like Nintendo hates money somehow because so many people would just be like, okay, yeah, thanks, I'll have that. No, yep, oh yeah, no, I'll get it for my 3DS too, but definitely home. Yeah. Yes, let's buy all the things.
I feel like there's some sort of thing in Nintendo's CEO where they say, if we put Pokemon on it, it'll sell. Don't worry, nothing else needs to be done. And that's probably the downfall.
It reminds me a lot of how Final Fantasy VII, a remaster of some kind, has just never happened, and now they're remaking it instead. It's just like, do you guys not realize how much money you're just leaving on the table by not like just porting a widescreen version of that game onto, I mean, yeah, that's going to be some work, but nothing like remaking the whole damn thing from scratch. And you could have used that again to test and see if people were still interested. Like, I'm sure there's strategy behind the scenes, but this reminds me, this situation, this ongoing refusal to put it on a console reminds me a lot of that also, where it's just like, I would buy that in a freaking heartbeat. Anything that was like an updated new version of Final Fantasy VII, any excuse to play that game again. And I think that Pokemon fans would be like, yes, Pokemon, anything on console, me buy. So it's kooky to me. How do you feel, Vox? You found your happy place? You still searching?
Well, allow me to illustrate how I feel to you through a bit of, how to put it? Just a bit of primal screaming. I am upset. I am not happy. I was looking forward to a Switch Pokemon game, a proper Switch Pokemon game. Sure, we all love the portable console versions of these games. Nobody's going to deny that. But come on. Just as I'm on the brink of climax, you smash me in the balls like this. As Shaka so eloquently put it, not cool. And don't even get me started on the whole, not even Nintendo, it's Game Freak. They tend to recycle stuff over and over again. You don't need to do this. Why would you make an ultra, quote-unquote, version of a pre-existing game? You're literally just taking shit and adding it to the game. You're adding more. It should have been a DLC, for Christ's sake, if you want to go that far. And don't even get me started. I mean, Nintendo and DLCs, they don't match, but they don't mix. But I digress. This should not have happened. There is no need for this. This is something that should have already been in the game. As you can see, I'm quite passionate about this subject, so if I start rambling, please tell me to shut up. But I digress. Why? Oh, why? Didn't you just, if you're going to recycle the formula, at least put it on the Switch. It is a touchscreen, it is portable, and it is so easy to virtually divide a touchscreen into two places. It is not that hard. You can do it, Nintendo. You can do it, Game Freak. I believe in you. Why do you do this? Why you hurt me like this? We don't need this. We do not need a Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Not necessary. Really. Wow,
that was impassioned.
I can't process it. I can't process it in my mind. Why a clerical error? Really? Bullshit. I call bullshit. I smell bullshit. You don't do that. You don't do that certainly to players who love the Pokemon series. People who find this series to be something as kind of part of their soul, part of their childhood. You just don't. You hurt me, Nintendo. You hurt me in ways that I've never been hurt before. But in any case, that's my small rant about it. TLDR, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, it was not necessary. Black and White 2, they did a decent job with that. It was somewhat of a new story, but what the hell are you going to do with this? You're just taking existing stuff, and I mean, I'm not going to start ranting again, but just take a look at the logo. The logos themselves are identical to the Sun and Moon ones. They just added a few extra lines. That's all I'm going to say. That's probably representative of what's going to be in the game. Done. Rant over. Let's move on.
Yeah, in the end, it's just a very disappointing thing. Everybody's excited, and then we lose the opportunity. And then on top of that, I agree with you. It's just like, if you're going to re-release basically the same game with a little bit more content, why put it on the same damn system? At least jump it up. You know, come on, you guys. Disappointing, for sure. Well, that's been the news section. We're going to go ahead and take a quick musical break. When we return, we'll get into our topic of the show, which is E3 2017 Hopes, Dreams, and Unicorn Beams. You're listening to Run, Ride, Don't Die, official podcast of the GameCast Network. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Run, Right, Don't Die, official podcast of the GameCast Network.
Well, why don't we go ahead and get into the topic of the show, E3 2017 Hopes, Dreams, and Unicorn Beams. So what are you guys excited about for E3 2017? It is always quite a thing. All of our friends over on the news team are like, so glad we're not launching before E3. We can just cover E3 on our own and not have to try and make it work for all of the ambitious goals of the GameCast. We'll get to it next year after we've had time to settle in.
For E3, like, I don't know, I'm not 100% excited for anything that's been confirmed right now. It's more like speculations and hopes for what I wish is announced, because I've been pining over it for years, just waiting for Nintendo to announce a new Metroid. Doesn't even need to be 2D or 3D, like just anything. I will accept anything as long as it's not Federation Force.
Now, has Nintendo come out and said, hey, we've got a new IP that we're going to release, or is it just serious hopes and dreams?
It's just serious hopes and dreams. I'm just like, I know the development studio that makes like Metroid Prime is working on something, but they haven't said what, and I'm just like waiting.
Hey, that's a good sign.
Yeah, it is.
Anything else come up for you for the conference?
Well, they just said that God of War's going to have, I think, an hour-long conference. Which I'm excited for, because it looked super pretty last year. Yeah,
you know, God of War is one that I've never really been into too much. I've played several of the games, and honestly had probably more fun playing the mobile, or, well, not the mobile. Yeah, I guess technically mobile, but not mobile as in phone, mobile as in PSP versions of the game. Those were particularly excellent. But, you know, I've never found myself really resonating with the character of, you know, I'm angry about everything at all times and quick time events. You know, that's basically the whole game. And I think that this time around, with the idea of Kratos having a son and where that leads us, it could be a very interesting change, and we might actually get a character instead of just rage embodied. So that could be cool. Because for games like that, you gotta have a character that's relatable somehow. You gotta have a character that you like a little, and that damn guy has never been anything but just, I'm mad about stuff. It's just like, okay, we get it, bro. Like a gajillion freaking games later, we get it. You have one fucking gear. I get it. So hopefully it looks a little more nuanced, a little more interesting. So hopefully it'll give them a chance to give some texture to the characters that have been much needed for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Well, Vox, anything stand out to you for the conference?
Well, you know, there's a lot of games that have already been confirmed to be shown. Personally, a lot of the Switch stuff, the Nintendo Switch stuff, I'm I'm looking forward to. ARMS, for example, I had the experience of actually trying ARMS before it came out.
Really?
Yeah, I went to a Nintendo event here in DC about a month or two ago, and I had the unique experience of playing that game. It is wacky, it is fun, and it will tire your arms out. So definitely looking forward to something, seeing more footage about it. What I played was kind of the pre-alpha, so, it still had a lot more to offer. But I digress. I look forward to that. Also, Ubisoft, they're going to be announcing the new Assassin's Creed game. I'm a follower of Assassin's Creed, guiltily enough, even though the story, is recycled and nobody even knows what the hell is going on anymore. It's still interesting to see what Ubisoft will do with this formula. Sure, the last 2-3 games have been pretty okay. They've revived the vitality of the Assassin's Creed series. Although we're not talking about Unity and we're not talking about Syndicate. Those don't exist in my mind. I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. So you're basically just talking about Black Flag.
Yes, exactly.
That's basically what you're talking about.
There were games after Black Flag.
Yeah, they really need to get back to whatever magic was happening behind the scenes that made Black Flag a thing, because that was one of the best games I've ever played. Whether or not it happened to be a Assassin's Creed game, it was really, really excellent.
So much fun.
I would love for them to be able to somehow resurrect that level of awesome.
Another thing though that I am looking forward to: Fallout 4 VR. Now, Fallout 4, anything Fallout, I have a weakness for. Just like Skyrim, I just love those types of games. Just this different worlds, whether they be fantasy or not. I just love them. And so being able to experience this firsthand in virtual reality, it tickles me in all sorts of ways.
So I haven't actually heard about that. Is Bethesda doing official VR support instead of a bunch of just janky Vorpex aftermarket stuff?
I'm not exactly sure. I think they're going to be talking about it, exactly what they're going to be doing.
Oh, boy!
But here's the thing. It's coming out for the HTC Vive. No Oculus Rift support yet. They might do, or somebody might come up with a way of integrating the Oculus with Fallout 4 VR, but for now it is specifically an HTC Vive release. Of course,
that's disappointing.
It is a little disappointing, but hey, it's proprietary stuff. Let's not get into that. I'm also looking forward to seeing Gang Beasts actually get their own little slot in E3. I mean, Gang Beasts, you guys know what Gang Beasts is, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, a wacky little fighting game that just has all sorts of nonsense. It started out as an indie game, and it has grown exponentially just because of how wacky it is. So seeing these guys get a slot in E3, very, very, very good for them. Also looking forward to Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I love Marvel vs. Capcom when it comes to fighting games. That is just my absolute favorite. Need for Speed Payback, not exactly sure what that is, but I'm certainly hoping that it is the successor, the way down the line successor to Most Wanted. Everybody remembers Most Wanted? I remember Most Wanted. I love Most Wanted.
Man, there was a window of time where those Need for Speed games were just brilliant.
Oh, so good. And then they just started getting a little weird.
Yeah, it's one of those series that started to get to a point where it's just like, are you guys being forced to make these or what? Like, is there inspiration involved, or is this just all right, we got to make another one. Here we go.
Guys, blink if you're being held hostage. Just let us know. They're also bringing out with Pokken Tournament DX, obviously for the Switch. I've never actually played Pokken Tournament, but it looks like fun. Red Dead Redemption 2, a lot of people have been looking forward to that. I've never actually played Red Dead Redemption. That's a lie. I played it once at a friend's house. Pretty good. So Red Dead Redemption 2, we're going to get a fresh storyline, fresh content, and a lot more shooting. Moving on down the list, because there is a list of stuff coming out. Skyrim for the Switch edition. We saw this in the commercials. It's finally coming to life. I'm certainly hoping that it is not going to be another Xbox or PS type of release where the graphics are just to die for in a really bad way.
It was a very interesting choice for them to put that out for the Switch. It's sort of like, that game's old, man. That game's not just a little old. That game's old at this point. Still well-loved, still an excellent game, but it hardly shows Bethesda. Bethesda is really behind the Switch. It's more like, yeah, we'll port something. You know? It's like, which is fine. I mean, it's a great damn game, but it's just kind of like, okay, guys, seriously, like, how many times are we going to release this damn game? Can we just get something new? How about that? We're going to see it there, and that will be interesting. I'm very much curious how the motion integration is going to work. I have my doubts about motion ever being a thing for actual real core game type experiences, because they just always seem a little too loosey goosey.
Yeah,
and it doesn't seem like, you know, I don't want the reason why the game is hard to be the controls sucking butt. Like, I think that's a problem for me, you know, and I've played a substantial amount of Skyrim over the years, and I've definitely found myself in situations where I was under the wire. I was really working hard to stay alive and survive and kill some stuff, and just barely squeaked by a couple times. And that's with like a keyboard and mouse, which is like the most precise gaming equipment possible. So like, how the hell is a bunch of waggle going to make me do all that correctly? Like, just doesn't seem like that's going to be a thing that's going to be super great. I feel like it's going to be potentially just a whole lot of like, oh, I can't aim for balls. Why is I'm on fire now?
So true.
Anything else stand out to you, Vox?
Going down the list, no, not really. I think I've had my share of fangasms going down this list. But what about
Fair
you?
enough.
What about you, Mark? Anything down the E3 list, gaming list that really, you know, calls out to you?
I try to stick to a few games to get excited over, because I like previous E3s, I used to have like massive lists and freak out over every single announcement. I try to limit that now, but I will say that I'm with you on Marvel vs. Capcom, because I remember playing Marvel vs. Capcom 1 in the arcades before I even knew what was going on, and just falling in love with it, going like, Iron Man just punched Ryu. They'd be like, yes. You just called in Colossus? I didn't even know who Colossus was until I played Marvel vs. Capcom. so it's been a massive part of my sort of gaming history. So seeing Infinite and going back to like 2-on-2, which is sort of like where it first began, it feels like this could be it. This could be something very, very special.
That's exciting. That's actually really exciting. Those games hold a special place in my heart. I used to get together with some friends, and we had like this one friend whose family was a little more wealthy, and so we would often spend time at their house, and they had all the game stuff, and they lived up on this hill, and it was like this, we would spend, I'm not kidding you, weekends at that house. You know, go there Friday, spend the night, all day, every day, just game-centric, constant, playing Warhammer, playing video games. Oh my God. And that was definitely a game that featured heavily in all that. Of course.
Yeah, like to this day, this is just general for fighting games. I'm better at playing on the right-hand side of the screen as 2-player, because my brothers would always play first player.
Oh, how funny.
And that's why fighting games are always like interesting to me, because it's like I jump over the opponent and then I'm on the right-hand side and then I just wreck it.
That's hilarious. So that's basically like you have a little brother handicap.
Yeah. Oh, just you wait. If you ever verse me, I'm second player.
So what you're saying is I need to try and jump over to the right side of the screen and then I'll start dominating.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm useless.
That's awesome.
Oh Lord.
Well, for me, you guys, I'm really excited about some of the conferences coming up. I think that the Bethesda conference on Sunday is going to be very exciting. I'm looking forward to checking that out. I'll probably be trying to watch that live somehow, maybe on my phone or whatever. I am very happy that Bethesda is maintaining a conference this year, and everybody thought that it was just going to be, well, you know, that's just for Fallout 4. But the reality is that apparently they're going to keep it. And in fact, they're going to keep it. And what it says here in the notes for the show is that you're going to get a newly announced title that will be seen for the first time at the E3 2017 showcase. So, oh my God, what is that going to be? Are they going to resurrect something from the back catalog? Is it going to be a second Doom? Is it going to be more Rage? Is it going to be, you know, another Elder Scrolls game? Like, what's happening? Like, this is, or is it going to be something totally different? Like, holy shit, man. It's super, super pumped, super excited. It's going to be awesome. I'm definitely going to try and watch that live. I wish I could stream that. Unfortunately, I'll be working over the weekend. But, and then, of course, also on Sunday night, we have Devolver Digital doing their conference, which I think this is the first time that they're doing one. And you heard earlier that I just I just have a big plump Woody for those guys. Those guys are fantastic.
Too much information. Too much information.
No. Do you think that's too vulgar? Should I redo that?
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's us.
It
Come
was
on.
in that safe zone.
Shaka,
Okay,
come on.
fair.
It's us.
Yeah, fair enough. This is the Alpha podcast. All right.
No. Even live, you're keeping that. And if not, I'll make you say it.
Oh, fair enough. But yes, I'm definitely excited about the Devolver Digital one. I continue to see their games come out and be not only just a bunch of fun, not only typically very much in the graphic style that I tend to enjoy, which is that beautiful, crunchy, modern pixel art where it's inspired by and in the tradition of pixel art, but using the power that we have access to these days, we can do things that would have never been possible on those previous consoles. And they just keep making these fantastic games, or not making, they keep publishing these fantastic games and delivering these wonderful indie darlings to us. And on top of that, their games often are really fun to make content with, whether it's Let's Play or streaming or whatever. Like so many of the games that are just rolling on the ground, laugh out loud fun in the last few years have come from Devolver Digital. And then, of course, on top of that, their actual policies and relationship with content creators is, it's just basically the best in the business. So I'm excited to see what they're up to. I'm excited to see that they are growing so much that it warranted, and what they're up to warrants actually having a conference. That's super exciting. And I like seeing developers and publishers, I guess so far publishers. I like seeing publishers, more publishers, new publishers that haven't historically had a conference to actually do a show. Like Bethesda taking on one last year, now Devolver's doing one this year. Like I'd like to see more and more of that. I think that's really where things should be heading, away from this, well, this is the PlayStation show. It's like, whatever, dude. Let's talk about the games. Like, come on. Like, talk to us when you have new hardware. Otherwise, fuck off. Like, I just want to know what the games are. And, then there's all this like silly, like, well, Destiny's being shown at the PlayStation one or at the Microsoft one. And is it only on Microsoft? And it's confusing. And oh no, they just made a deal to make it look like it's just, can you tell that I've become a little bit of a PC Master Race kind of person? Like I pretty much hate buy any kind of console game I have to get at this point. And it's only because they are, inevitably having some kind of cool exclusive that I just cannot live without and just have to try, like Horizon most recently, or a while back, Insomniac's Sunset Overdrive. Like that's the reason I got an Xbox One, to be completely honest. And for real, also, basically haven't touched it since then. If I'm going to play a game, I want to play it on the PC. I spent like quadruple the price of a console on my PC, and it looks great and runs great. I just don't want to have to do that. And so it's nice to have more developers, especially developers that are pretty computer centric, especially someone like Devolver. But even Bethesda, to be pushing out more and more stuff and really taking the stage and a little bit of the limelight away from, or maybe not away from, but in addition to all the normal conventional just hardware people. Because it's just kind of like, why is that a thing? Like, are you really changing that much with your hardware when you're not releasing a new console that we need to have a whole conference with you? It just seems so silly to me that like the Xbox conference and the PlayStation conference are always like the two things that everybody's most excited about. Nintendo has fucked off a long time ago, and they're doing their directs and have some presence, but they don't actually do like a proper show anymore. And I think that it's neat that it's heading in the direction of more the developers, more the actual game focus than hardware focus. Speaking of games, I'm very interested in seeing more about the new Spider-Man for PS4. Hate buy.
That's made by Insomniac, yeah?
Yeah. Basically, I'm going to buy anything Insomniac makes because Insomniac.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about that. It looks like it's going to be really great. Anything that we've seen from it so far suggests that it will be awesome. And also the traversal in Insomniac's most recent game, Sunset Overdrive, or not, I guess it's not technically their most recent game. They did that underwater game that looked like something I wouldn't like. So I guess I'm not going to buy everything from them. I'm a liar. No, but the Sunset Overdrive was amazing, and a big part of what made it so very awesome was the fact that the traversal through the city and through the world was so just buttery, silky smooth. I don't think I've come close to feeling like that in a game since probably Jet Set Radio Future. And this, I think, probably trumps the experience of playing Jet Set Radio Future because it's even more dynamic. And you actually have the ability to fight. And it was super tongue-in-cheek and ridiculous. Like, just Insomniac has their shit together. They make great games. I'm looking forward to what they can do with a proper Spider-Man game, because Spider-Man, of course, is all about the traversal, right? It's all about climbing on shit and jumping off buildings and web slinging and, like, holy crap, man. If they can really cut loose and make a proper Spider-Man game that's not some kind of kooky tie-in to a movie, but is just like, here, Insomniac, with all of your superpowers and you know, dark gods, why don't you just go into a corner and make a Spider-Man game that is awesome? You know, that is hopefully what's happening. And so I'm pumped about that. That looks amazing. The Shadow of War, which is the new Middle-earth game, looks really damn awesome. And the old Middle-earth game was one of those games that came out and everybody was like, oh, it's just going to be all right. And then it was freaking great. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what they do to evolve that whole thing.
Yeah, it's my favorite Assassin's Creed.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. Did you get far enough to where you could control other people?
Oh yeah, that was amazing. I'm looking forward to
like
Shadow
marching
of
into
War.
a base with like a legion of Uruks at your back that are all glowing. It's like, yeah, it's fucking great.
Yeah, I remember I had like an army approaching a base, and then I had one brainwashed inside the base, and it's like, okay, everyone charge, and then the one in the back just slowly making his way towards us.
That's awesome.
It's just so cute and so vicious.
Well, you know, in fact, on Wednesday, it looks like they're going to be having a cool thing going on for Middle-earth Shadow of War. It's going to be a behind-the-scenes look. And Monolith Productions, Warner Brothers, all those guys, and then Troy Baker, who is the voice of Talion, as well as the voice of like a bunch of stuff. I mean, he was the voice of Booker DeWitt from the most recent BioShock game, BioShock Infinite, and then he was, of course, famously the voice of Joel in The Last of Us, and I think, again, voice of Joel in the sequel as well. So that looks like it's going to be super awesome. I totally enjoy Troy. He's a hell of a guy, hell of a good contributor to the games world. So it'll be fun to have him host it and learn more about it. And they're going to get apparently a live demonstration. Wouldn't it be fun to see Troy play as himself?
Oh, that'd be awesome. If they mute the game and he just says,
oh my
all
god,
the lines.
yes. What I want, my 100%, my cake and eat it too scenario would totally be Troy playing the game live and then adding live commentary in Talion's voice.
Yeah, because I remember that happened like a couple of years back with The Witcher 3, where
I know.
The audio cut out and Geralt had to ad-lib, and it was like the funniest thing.
Taking playing
That's
with
awesome.
yourself to a whole new level.
It'll be the new tagline on the back.
Oh, totally. Now, and then, of course, also on Wednesday, we've got a Square Enix developer showcase, and they're going to be revealing details about a game that will be announced for the first time at E3. So that's also exciting. We'll see some new game. I don't know if it's a new IP or just a new game, but, you know, hey, new stuff from Square. That's good. Square, I think, has really reclaimed some of its former glory in recent days since they released Final Fantasy 15, which was quite good. No, not perfect, of course, like anything ever really is, of course not, but it was damn good, and I think helped, you know, regain some trust after the whole Final Fantasy 13 just shitstorm of just miserable corridors for fucking 20 hours, and blah, it was terrible. So I think it's really cool, and I'm excited to see where they're going with this. I'm hoping that we're going to see more stuff about Final Fantasy 7. I'm sure we will. But that little tidbit of something new, that's one of the things that's most fun about E3, is you're like, oh, they're going to talk about stuff and they're going to release something that we've never seen before. It's like, yes, give me new things. Let's see here. What else is interesting? Oh, okay. So they're going to be doing, again on Wednesday, they're going to be doing a whole thing about Far Cry 5. So that's going to be interesting. Looking forward to that. And then there's a particularly interesting little thing going on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Jack Black in conversation with Tim Schafer. So I'm just going to read the little excerpt here. It says, over the past 30 years, Tim Schafer has created some of the gaming industry's most hilarious, memorable worlds and characters. The multi-talented Jack Black, star of Brutal Legend, leads a wide-ranging conversation with Tim about his career, creative process, and yes, of course, Psychonauts 2. So yes, please. Like I'm hella looking forward to that. That's going to be freaking great. As far as games specifically that I'm psyched about for E3 that have already been confirmed, moving away from stuff that's like, ooh, what's it going to be? I'm looking forward to it. Stuff that's already been announced that I'm definitely interested in. Call of Cthulhu, the official game. I didn't even know that was a thing until I was looking through the officially confirmed games, and it's like, oh shit. I love H.P. Lovecraft. I've enjoyed his work for some time. Used to listen to the H.P. Podcraft. I still listen to the H.P. Podcraft podcast, which, if you're not aware of that, it's a fantastic podcast. Highly recommended. They just deconstruct weird fiction and horror stuff and started with Lovecraft, but basically burnt through every single one of his things that was ever published and have moved on to stuff that is similar or things that he mentioned in an essay that he wrote called Supernatural Horror and Literature, where he mentions other books and other authors. And so they've used that as a jumping off point. So it's a really, really great series. So I definitely appreciate me some Lovecraft. And so I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully it will be really interesting and very cool. I remember enjoying the old Call of Cthulhu games, as clunky and ancient and not well aged as they are. Still a good time. Destiny 2 I'm definitely interested in. I'll probably be looking forward to playing that and mostly just playing it for the story, because as soon as a game starts to recycle content and make you grind, I'm out. But I'm definitely interested in checking that out. Here's an interesting one. Detroit Become Human. Have you guys played much of Quantic Dream's other work?
I've actually not.
Yeah, I played Beyond Two Souls and I watched Heavy Rain, like a full playthrough.
Oh man, I was going to say, if you had just stopped after I played Beyond Two Souls, I'd be feeling sorry for you, because that's easily considered their least awesome game.
It was like $10. It was $10. It was all right.
Oh, fair enough. There you go. I understand that they came out with a special edition of it on the PS4 that rearranges the sequence of events, and that supposedly really helps a lot, because apparently the first release had things story-wise out of order, and that somehow, even though it was the way they wanted to present it, it ended up turning out to be a little bit confusing and sort of messed with the impact of the story. Was that your experience? Like, where did you play that?
Yeah, like I was a bit confused. I knew what to expect, but it still really threw me when, like, I'm a toddler 1 second and then I'm just an adult and then I'm fighting like ghosts or something, and then Willem Dafoe's just looking angry at me. It's just
Jesus. I still need to check that one out. Let's see what else here. Detroit Become Human, like I said, very excited about that. Looks really interesting. I'm totally fascinated with all of the futurism type stuff, and what happens when AI becomes sentient, and are they people, are they not, what's going on? Like, that's enduring and interesting, and excited to finally see that Kara character take shape after all these years. That's going to be very neat. We already talked about Shadow of Mordor, all that. State of Decay 2, yes please. State of Decay 1 is by far and away probably the best zombie survival experience role-playing game, period. Like, have you guys played that game?
Yes.
I didn't play it, but I watched a lot of it.
Yeah.
I don't know
Vox,
why I never picked it up.
Vox, have you?
Oh yeah, I actually have. I've never done a recording of it, but yeah, I played it for myself, and it is intense. I will tell you that much.
It's absolutely intense. I my hope is that they're going to say something to the effect of, you can now play with your friends, because that's what was missing. It was such a great experience. It had such a wonderful, scary vibe. You had to go into town to collect food and stuff and deal with zombies along the way, and you had to deal with crazy neighbors, and moving your base to a different place when it was outgrowing outgrowing the size that it could potentially hold. And I mean, it was just such a fantastic Walking Dead zombie post-apocalyptic simulator. It was so fun. It totally checked so many boxes that so many zombie games get so wrong. But of course, it didn't have any multiplayer, and so I think that, and they've talked about trying to add multiplayer, but apparently something deep within the game mechanics and the game system and engine or whatever doesn't really allow them to do that in the first one. And so, State of Decay 2, please let there be multiplayer. That's exciting. Vampire looks really interesting. I've only seen a couple of trailers, and in fact, as of the recording of this morning, they've released a new trailer, which I'm going to watch after the recording, because I'm excited about it. But it looks like it's going to be really awesome. It takes place in, I think, Old London, and it's just gorgeous and story heavy and should be a good time. Anything to do with supernatural, undead, vampire-y type stuff, especially when it's not like, I'm a sparkly vampire and I like young girls, when it's actually like real vampires that are like, I'm going to eat people because I'm a fucking vampire. Like, that's a good time. So Days Gone from Bend Studio is very, very exciting. That looks like it's going to be an interesting one. It's sort of another post-apocalyptic zombie-type game that has that kind of World War Z movie look where the zombies move in almost like a water tidal wave sort of thing. It's taking advantage of the PS4's substantial power in comparison to the other systems currently available, and it has a lot of really neat stuff going on with like shit tons of people on the screen at once and all that. So I'm always interested in those kind of games. I pretty much have a bottomless willingness to play games about zombies and the post-apocalyptic sort of environment and stories. I know it's starting to weigh on people and they're kind of ready to be done. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. Bend, I have a lot of trust in that studio. They're a fantastic studio. So hopefully they do some interesting things with it. And last but not least, we've already talked about Red Dead Redemption 2. Totally pumped about that. But last but not least, Ni no Kuni 2, Revenant Kingdom. Also, yes, please. Ni no Kuni 1, so good. Just, yes, give me more of that, please. Just, I want to spend as much time as possible in a Studio Ghibli type world. Like, that just makes me happy inside of my heart. And so, the being able to have another proper role-playing game where you get to spend real time in those worlds and just marinate in it, I'm all in. I'm all in. I just definitely want that. So that's kind of exciting. So yeah, that's about it for me. Well, why don't we go ahead and shift into the end game, where we go around, give final thoughts, weigh in one last time, and make your final point, or even respond to something you didn't get a chance to respond to earlier. Mark, why don't you go first, man?
Well, actually, it goes into the Ni no Kuni thing. I am like a massive, massive fan of anything Studio Ghibli, and just like seeing Ni no Kuni, like I don't know if you remember, but in the first game, they had a very specific animation about you going up and down stairs. And I was just going up and down stairs for like 10 minutes straight. And my brother looked at me and was saying, like, what are you doing? I said, I don't even know anymore. And that's why Ni no Kuni 2 is probably going to be amazing.
I love that game. So, I mean, anything that Studio Ghibli touches, I understand that Studio Ghibli's not necessarily directly involved in this one. I don't think that they are. I think they're more consulting. I remember reading that somewhere, so don't quote me on that. I don't have an article in front of me to be 100% sure, but they are most certainly a little bit less involved this time around. But hopefully they'll be able to maintain a similar level of awesome, because yes.
And one last thing that I just remembered. For like all zombie games you play, Shaka, is there something that like turns you off if like a zombie game has something and you'll just jump out like, yeah, not
a lot of the time, if it's too gun-centric, too action game-centric, that's not for me. I enjoy, as you probably could imagine with my little rant about H.P. Lovecraft earlier, I appreciate a weird fiction sort of vibe, and the best way to describe that, as explained by H.P. Lovecraft, is a profound sense of wrongness, is what weird fiction offers you, where it's not necessarily blah, scary, violent, bloody gore, it's just, wow, there's something not right here. And so for me, when it comes to horror, when it comes to survival horror, when it comes to weird fiction, post-apocalypse, anything supernatural, all that, for me, what I'm looking for is a particular kind of atmosphere. And pretty much always been attracted to what's called desert island horror, which is a perfect example of that would be The Thing, where you've got just a couple people in an isolated place that is inhospitable, and there's a small amount of safety, and they have to kind of crowd around it like a campfire. So whether it's actually a campfire, or whether it's a facility that's surrounded by zombies, or whether it's a house where they're on the second floor and there's zombies milling around in the streets, or whether anything like that, a storm outside, snow, whatever it is. Like, I like inhospitable outside, safety inside, pressure cooker for humanity. Let's see what people do under a lot of pressure. That's fascinating to me. And so zombies are a hotbed for that kind of an experience. And I also enjoy the zombie thing of needing to feel like there's scarcity. I want to feel like, oh man, I don't know where my next meal is going to come from. Oh, I can't even fill my 6-shooter up. I only have 2 bullets, so I have to use them carefully. Like anything that gets into like, machine guns, I've got a gajillion. Okay, basically anything that's anything like the last couple Resident Evil games where it's just like buckets of bullets and just murdering zombies left and right and all that. Like, no, thank you. Like I want an actual real survival, scarcity, horror, wrongness, creepy sort of experience. That's what I want. And so when it becomes like an action movie, I'm a little bit less into it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. I just wanted to see where the line was.
That's the line. Vox, final thoughts, man?
Well, final thoughts. I'm excited for the Bethesda conference. Nintendo should take that Ultra Sun and Moon and cram it. I'm sorry. I have so much angst about.
I just love it. I love the angst. It's delicious. It tastes good.
Oh God! And look, normally I'm not anti-Nintendo, but this particular instance, I will tell Nintendo to take that game and cram it where the sun don't shine because
they've earned your ire.
Yes, they really have. Lord, don't even get me started on Pokemon Go, but that's another issue entirely. Definitely excited for Bethesda. Nintendo shouldn't have done that. I'm excited for Splatoon. I didn't mention that. Splatoon 2, I played it also at this event. Loads of fun, so that's probably one of the only reasons I might get a Switch. But other than that, not really. Just another day in Vox Paradise.
Well, for me, I will very likely be live streaming / commentating over a couple of these events. I haven't 100% decided which ones yet, but if they are happening on Monday, Tuesday, I don't know if they're going all the way to Thursday. I don't think so. But Monday or Tuesday, if there's anything interesting going on, I will likely, if it fits in my schedule, I'll definitely be basically slapping my face over the live stream capture of it and chatting with the gang and hopefully enjoying it that way. That should be fun. Definitely stick to the Discord. You can join my Discord. You can, in fact, this is a good way to segue into the promo stuff. Why don't we go ahead and go around and share where people can find us, and where you can find me is ShakkaPanda.com, or you can get a hold of me easily on Twitter at ShakkaPanda. And then, of course, I'm on Mixer.com/ShakkaPanda, which is where I do all my streaming all week long, which is a lot. And and then, of course, the mothership, I like to say, where I release a lot of my content, is YouTube.com/ShakkaPandaPlays. So stay tuned to all that business to get a clear idea of when I'm going to go live and what I will be covering. But I will definitely be doing some of that this coming week. Mark, where can we find you online?
You can find me primarily on YouTube, so youtube.com/ArisenCulture. Doesn't matter how you pronounce it as long as you spell it right. I'm also on Facebook with Arisen Culture and Twitter, even though I don't check them much. But I'll always check the Gmail, arisen.culture@gmail.com. I'm super responsive there.
Right on. And Vox, of course, where can we find you, my friend?
You can always find me on YouTube, Facebook, and VidMe. Just look for The Voice 106.7. I'm also on Twitter at TheVoice106_7. Be sure to look for me for some wacky and generally questionable content. In any case, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Run Right, Don't Die. Don't forget to give us a rating and review on iTunes or whatever you download this podcast. It really helps. I'd like to thank our guest tonight, Mark. Mark, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Of course. And of course, our wonderful host, Shakka. Be sure to subscribe to GameCast YouTube channel at youtube.com/GameCastTV. Follow us on Twitter at game_cast_TV. Help keep the mics on and support your favorite show by heading over to patreon.com/GameCastTV and become a patron. All kinds of super cool exclusive goodies are yours as a GameCast patron, so be sure to check that out. And of course, if you'd like to chat with me or any of the GameCast gang, join us in the official GameCast Discord by following the link in the show notes or description of this video if you're watching us on YouTube. Thanks again. We'll see you next time, and remember to run right, don't die. Well, you can always find me on YouTube, VidMe, and Facebook, and looking forward to fuck with a side of fuck. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with me today? You can always look at Shakka. I'm going to ask you to slap me. Jesus Christ.